my answer, still aware that there will be more challenges ahead of me. But all the challenges that you face now to accomplish your whatever dream you have of a project, just enjoy it and be happy of what you're doing, because you have to enjoy what you do, regardless of the outcome. Hard work, wake up early, work hard, but enjoy the moment, regardless of the outcome, because life is really short to be sad. And I promise you, people is always watching, always seeing you. And there are people that maybe you are not aware of, but everything that you're doing is inspiring other people. And I think that's important, regardless of if your company becomes the next multi-billion-dollar company. But that process, you have to enjoy it, and that process will inspire more people.
Welcome to the Going Big podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Gentry, and this is the place where we celebrate bold moves and big ideas. Each week, I sit down with inspiring leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers who are making a significant impact in their careers and in their communities. Whether you're looking to level up your leadership, pursue your passion, or just get inspired to take your next big leap, this is where those stories come to life. Now, if you're listening on iTunes, YouTube, or anywhere else you tune into podcasts, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. Now, let's dive in to what it means to truly go big.
Well, greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today's guest on the Going Big podcast illustrates going big in a lot of terrific ways. I know him as an entertainer, a nonprofit leader, a social change agent, a serial entrepreneur, and an amazing spokesman on Spanish language media for his principles. And I'm really pleased to be with Cesar Grajales. Cesar, you and I have known each other for a long time. Yeah. It's great to be with you. You have a phenomenal going big story, and I've wanted to interview you from the start. So it's great to be with you.
Thank you, my friend. I'm happy to be here, and it's an honor to be with you today in your podcast. I know it's been very successful, and so again, it's an honor to be here.
Well, we're going to talk about your podcast in a moment, and you've been an inspiration for me, not just with your podcast, but in many other ways. I want to start off with going big and ask you, do you think it's still possible to go big in America?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I know we face challenges in our country. I know there are people that maybe don't feel happy with election outcomes and things like that. But America continues being the place to be successful, the place for people like me who looks for freedom and opportunity. I immigrated from Colombia 25 years ago. And if you follow the rules, and if you are committed to your purpose, and if you are disciplined, and if you really follow your spirit, this country will regard you with a good life, I would say.
Well, I think that's a great example. You set a good example for that. And, you know, I knew by asking you that question at the outset, it would begin to set a good foundation for this conversation. Where you've gone big is really now in the modern day, but there's so many steps that you took, and you've always dreamed big.
Yeah.
You mentioned being an immigrant from Colombia.
Yes.
Share a little bit more about your story.
Yeah.
You and your father came here, I believe, you just said about 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What was that dream? What was that go big vision to leave Colombia? And what were the first couple of days like?
So, Kevin, I would say this, for people like me, and probably many stories and people who comes from Latin America, we sadly have to leave our country of origin behind because the bad policies, because violence, because insecurity, and then a father who has their children and they want to raise their children in a better place, they find themselves in a place where opportunity and safety is no for their family and family members. So in his case, my dad and my mom, they decided to apply for political asylum in the United States. We left Colombia when Colombia was almost a failing state.
All right.
Guerrilla members and drug cartels and many things happening down there. And we gladly and thanks God, we had the opportunity to come to this country. We didn't have enough money to bring my sister and my mom to America, but my dad and I have enough for our first, 2 tickets. We get here.
How old were you then?
I was 19.
You were 19. So you and your dad come
18,
here.
actually, 18.
With this vision of coming to America.
Yes.
He's ultimately going to bring the rest of the family.
Yeah.
Tell us about your arrival here, the first day, and how much money did you have in your pocket?
So I never forget the day and time. I got here with my dad in November 14 at 1:30 p.m. We landed from Cali, Colombia. And
November 13th, 2020?
November 14 at 1:30 p.m. on 2020, on 2000, actually.
Okay, so 25 years ago this year.
Yes, and my first reaction was getting out of the airport and start seeing the palm trees of the beautiful city of Miami. And then I've never seen before a limousine, and I saw a limousine outside waiting for somebody else, obviously not us. And then getting in contact with the ocean the first night. But we had only $80, and we used it to pay for the first night of hotel in Miami
you can't
Beach.
get much for $80 on a first night hotel, but $80 is not going to get you very far after the hotel. What did you do the next day?
Well, the very next day, my dad called a woman that he didn't know her, but he did know actually her sister back in Colombia. They used to do businesses. Mom and dad used to have a clothing business back in Colombia. So this woman, she was the manager of a bakery here in Miami, specifically in Miami Beach. Biga Bakery. I don't know if you guys here at the studio remember the Biga Bakery. We filmed the episode in Miami. So Biga Bakery was very popular back in the day, bakery. And this woman was the manager. So my dad called this woman and said, I'm here with my son. I know your sister. We don't have any place to go, but we're just looking for a job. We came in a political asylum. We applied for political asylum. And she graciously gave us opportunity to stay with her. And the very first day we started, in my case, cleaning the bakery with my dad. Eventually they asked me if I know how to make cookies. I say yes. No clue, but everybody survived. So I guess the cookies were great. and that's how we started. And then we went to a church. She took us on Sunday, that week, following Sunday, to church. My family and I, we are Catholics. And we met the priest at the church, and he introduced you to the community. And then the community opens the doors for my dad and I, and we started working on construction, painting houses, cleaning houses, gardening. And I think that for me was very impactful to see how our community actually embraces us and gives us the opportunity to find our purpose and to continue following our American dream.
Well, I know the next phase of your life was in the public policy area, the organization LIBRE.
Yeah.
That's how you and I met almost 15 years ago. Daniel Garza, who's the founding president of LIBRE, I interviewed him on one of my early podcast episodes, told me the story about how he recruited you as a volunteer. So let's talk now about that next phase of your life. Daniel Garza told me that you were an entertainer and that you all met maybe playing soccer. So tell us a little bit about that.
The early 2000s, when right after we actually started living in our own place, we brought mom and my sister to the U.S. One of the things that I studied back in Colombia was music. Since I was a kid, I studied classical music. So that was one of the, I would say, talents that I have or skills. And I ended up working for 2 major TV stations, Telemundo and Univision, for the house band, many different shows. So I started playing the guitar and sometimes backup singer. But I wanted to be my own thing, my own artist. So I released back in 2004 an album and actually a single, and it was all over Mexico, Dominican Republic, back in Colombia. Again, the music was there, and so we Latinos, we like soccer. So Sunday we were up with my dad and a group of friends playing soccer in a field here in Miami, and a guy came running. Can I play with you guys? He told us, and I said yes. And when the game ended, I stay because I'm one of those guys who really like to meet people and see what they do. And I asked him, "What's your name? What do you do?" And then he said, "I'm Daniel Garza." At that time, he left the White House. That I think in that very year. So he told me I used to work at the White House. Now I'm the president of Revista Poder, which at the moment was a very important magazine for Latinos. And we connected, and we developed a friendship. And he was the one who introduced me to the really very interested in politics and policy and things like that. So fast forward, years passed, we became really good friends. And in 2011, he told me about, hey, there is a new group, they're funding in Washington, creating, I'm going to be the president, which is the LIBRE Initiative. And this is what we're going to be doing, reaching out the Latino community from conservative values, hard work, discipline. When he was telling me the story, I said, do you know what, Daniel? The message resonates with me. I don't have experience in politics, but I do have experience about writing articles. At that moment, I was writing a weekly article for a newspaper in Mexico about music. So I say I can switch to write articles about what is happening to our Latino community in the country. And I started volunteering for Libre as writing content for them. And then eventually they needed someone to knock in doors and reach out to the community. I didn't know how to do this, but I want to spread the message in my community. So I started going to churches and partnering with either a priest or a pastor, and going on Sundays, setting up the table and talking about the LIBRE Initiative. Eventually, I became field director, state director, regional director, coalitions director, lobbyist, now a spokesperson, and eventually become also a go-to for in Espanol, with Spanish, for conservative perspective, what is happening in the country.
Well, I want to get to the Spanish language media component in a moment, but let's just tease out a little bit more about Libre. There are 61 million Latinos, Hispanics in the United States.
Correct.
That is a fast-growing aspect of the population. You recently shared with me that 50% of the population growth between the 2010 census and the 2020 census was Hispanic Americans.
Yeah.
You obviously, having been yourself an immigrant from a country in Latin America, and as you say, working with your community and these ideas. And yes, fast forward, you went from a volunteer organizer to the national spokesman for them. Let folks know a little bit more about how are you connecting your principles, your ideas of the American dream, with voters, new voters, and helping drive policy. I know you worked a lot on regulatory reform, expanding education opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Those were some of the big issues that you tackled, I remember, here in Florida, as well as broadly across the country. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, Kevin, I would say our community, in a natural way, we had those conservative principles and values. We want to do better for our families. We want to do better for our neighbors. We support hard work, discipline. When you go to the fields and you see people working from early morning until late night, or even people that move from the fields to funding new companies, you see that they are actually really committed to their projects and everything from our community. And those are hardcore conservative values. Sadly, for so many years, the Grom ideas have been reaching out to them. They had more money. They had been going through different media outlets, through different politicians that had different interests than actually our community. And they have spread the Grom messaging. sometimes our community has been hit by different messaging that is not connecting with Latinos values, but at the end, there is nothing else. That's the reason Daniel and other folks created the LIBRE Initiative. And in my case, it resonated so well because I said, you know what, the messaging that you're driving now is what I identify. So we grow from, let me go back to 2011. It was just Daniel and I think 3 or 4 more folks back in Texas. To now, there are dozens, or not only employees, but actually hundreds of volunteers and activists that volunteer for LIBRE. And LIBRE became a really well-respected center-right organization. We do our own research, polling, and many things that connects those conservative values to our community. In my case, as you mentioned, I see it firsthand going to, for instance, Tallahassee, capital of Florida, to testify in favor of more school options, for instance. And then polls prove that Latinos and minorities are the benefit the most from this kind of policies. And last year, it became a law here in Florida after many years and many policy battles. The universal voucher, which is fantastic, is benefiting, again, minorities, including Latinos, African Americans, and people who really fell behind by the traditional public education. Now you see that they have more options. So to me, I feel proud about the work LIBRE has been doing for so many years. And in my case, how well respected they became the organization. And I think we are positive that we will continue impacting the community. I know that the other side, the other ideas, they had more resources. But in our side, we have very talented people that is really, regardless of what's happening there, really reaching out our community and bringing more friends to our side.
Well, this is a key reason I wanted to have you on the Going Big podcast. You've not only have you always thought big and acted big, and it takes, big dreams, big vision, but also taking action. You and Daniel also had this big vision for LIBRE to fill a huge void in the political marketplace in the United States. And you've done that, you and the rest of your team, many others. And I think we saw that in the 2024 elections. And we can see the trends perhaps now going into the future. So that takes me to another area. You're always thinking about the next thing.
Yeah.
And you took some of your experience as a national spokesman for LIBRE into a talk radio program, a Spanish language program in South Florida, which is now the #1 program in that space. It's amazing. In South Florida, you're connecting with just hundreds of thousands of voters, citizens who've come to the United States just as you did from Colombia. Maybe from Nicaragua, from Cuba, from Venezuela, any Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, anywhere it may be in Latin America. Where do you see the connection of what you're doing there to your principles, how you view the American dream, and how you're connecting with your audience?
Thank you for asking that. And I'm going to put a little more context. I started being invited like probably 10 years ago as a political analyst from the center-right perspective to the major media outlets from, again, Univision, Telemundo. And it was...
And which, by the way, to be clear, generally were more on the left.
Yes.
So they had to have somebody with
a different
perspective. And
correct.
So you and Daniel Garza filled that void.
Correct. We started going, but to the point now, as you mentioned, Kevin, that Daniel and I become and I do this with all thankful to the media that really trust Daniel and myself to be that voice continually. There are more voices now, but Daniel Garza and I are definitely the people who you guys probably, or people who speak Spanish, see the most on TV from the center-right perspective. And I'm glad that they opened the door. However, it continued being more the perspective towards center-left. And that led to actually having my own show on La Poderosa, which is a Salem Communications only Hispanic radio station that they own. And I have a 2 hours daily radio show where we analyze what is happening, not only locally in Florida or Miami, but nationally in politics and policy. And we also take live phone calls from people, which to me is fascinating because at the end is kind of live poll every day of what really people is feeling. And then how do I connect that? I explain to the people what is happening to the country and why we should continue choosing the right policies, not the policies that actually fail in our countries of origins,
Right.
and the policies that we left behind, and why it's important to support specific, for instance, educational freedom
Let me ask
in
you,
the country.
could you see the population shifting more in the direction that it ended up voting last November through the callers that you were speaking with?
Yes, and it is fascinating. I'm glad that you asked that because I had callers saying, I'm a registered Democrat. Last year, actually, I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm going to vote this time for Republicans because I feel more represented by a conservative value and ideas than for what had been voting before. I think that this party has been not fulfilling their promises. And it's sad that, for instance, there is one topic that I know everybody recognizes, which is immigration. And somehow they have been playing with that topic for Latinos, but also they had made to believe the rest of America that that's the only topic that we care about.
Right.
And it's fascinating that
It's
actually
true. That was definitely the case just a few years ago.
And it's interesting that actually Latinos care about the economy, safety, more educational options for their kids. They just want to work
Right.
and do better for their families. And so how they create this topic or narrative that we only care about immigration. But it's fascinating how actually polls, including one poll from the LIBRE Initiative, that showed last year that Democrats and Republican voters, registered voters, Latinos, over 60%, they supported more safety and more security at the border. Isn't that incredible? It shows that actually even Democrats, Latinos are more conservative in that angle related to immigration.
Well, good for you for even challenging that media narrative,
Of course,
demonstrating it as well. So another aspect of your going big and thinking big is, again, as I said, thinking that next big thing. So you took your experience from your radio talk show to start a podcast.
Yes.
Sabor of Freedom.
Sabor of Freedom, Taste of Freedom in
Taste
English.
of Freedom, and a very popular, it's taken off. It's a Spanish language podcast. Tell us first a little bit about the vision for that and where that is today.
Well, I'm going to start by recognizing the people behind the podcast. Jose Malea, he used to be the CEO of Libre. He had the idea along with Manny Lara, one of the producers. And then they started working also with Judy Pino, which is the marketing director of Libre. And in my case, they gave me the opportunity to be the host. And we started bringing stories of success. Our people want to listen to people who inspire them.
Yeah, what is the theme and objective of Sabor of Freedom? What is a Taste of Freedom? I know you've had Patty Jeanette, you've many different celebrities. What are you trying to achieve? And what is the market you found?
Yeah, well, there was a podcast target to the Latino community that really inspired them, but also reminding our community why we came to this country in the first place. And I think it's important to listen to people who already made in America. Either you was born here or you're the second generation. It's great to listen to those stories. People from all over Latam, people who immigrated from Venezuela or Argentina, or actually their family immigrated here and now the second generation, and now they making it big. Like, for instance, one of the recently episodes that we have is Rachel Campos Duffy. Mm-hmm. That is one of the co-hosts of the Fox and Friends, and she was sharing her story and how is
her father immigrated here from Mexico, I believe.
Exactly, mother from Spain, and it's a very, very interesting story. And we also have the former manager of Celia Cruz, which is someone who is very important in our community. She was a singer, and he shared his story, how he ended up working with her,
Wow.
but also the legacy that she left behind. And then so many other people that has fantastic stories and inspire a community. I'm going to share a story.
Yeah, you got to share a story. Come on, we're waiting for a story.
This is fantastic, and
this
I feel
has to beat the $80 the first night, and you're going to the bakery where you didn't know how to bake cookies. Give us another story.
And listen to this, and really, I feel humble about this because I heard this story last week in an all-staff retreat that we just had in Orlando, and a guy approached to me and said, "Cesar, I want to thank you. I started working for LIBRE 2 weeks ago. I want to thank you." And I was like, "Why me?" Because he's now one of the employees in Colorado. And he said, "Well, I discovered the podcast a few months ago, I think in November, October last year. And I get into the podcast and I get inspired and I want to try to find more." He went to the website, ended up applying for a job for LIBRE because he find that he just want to go a step forward, not just watching the podcast, but not being in volunteer only. I want to be an employee. And to me, or LIBRE, to me, that's a very inspiring story. Like, we not only inspiring our community, but also there are people who really wants to join the family, the LIBRE Initiative. And to me, that's important. And again, I'm going to recognize everybody that had made possible the podcast Sabor of Freedom, because it's not just me, it's other people working behind the camera guys, the makeup, the artist, the director. Is a team effort.
Well, let's hope that you continue to reach and inspire new people like the example that you did, and we're doing that even today. So I have just a couple of wrap-up questions, but again, you're always thinking of this new big thing. You're always going big. You're a serial entrepreneur as well. I don't know when you sleep. I don't know when you find the time. You have a shoe company, Indie Genius.
Yes.
I love
right here.
the shoes.
I don't know if you guys watching or seeing now, but I have to thank Kevin. Kevin has been so generous. He believed in my project, which is and I'm going to tell you to be of the shoe company. So
where does the name Indie Genius come from?
It was it's a play of words. First of all, I mix. It's 100% leather, the shoes, but also I mix indigenous fabrics from different communities in Latin America. It's handmade indigenous fabric. In your case, in your model, the indigenous fabric is right here. In this design, it's right here. And what I thought is that empowering people through work is important. And I was just trying to find a way to create value to people in LATAM, people that maybe doesn't have the opportunity to immigrate or something like that. And most of the people actually, if they have the opportunity to be successful in their country of origin, they will be happy there and stay there. And I believe if I employ 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 people, those are 5 families that are going to be happy there working. So Indie Genius comes from indigenous. So I was playing kind of indie genius. And so far it's been like 2 years since I funded this endeavor, this company, and we have different designs. And I want to thank you, because
if somebody wants
Kevin is going everywhere with my shoes.
I'm an ambassador for Indigenious. If you want to check out your shoes, do you have a website or just Google it?
Go to the Instagram, which is at Indigenious. At by Indigenious. At by Indigenious.
By for B-U-Y for purchase?
Correct.
And then Indie is like independent, I-N-D-I-E.
Correct.
And Genius like you're a brilliant guy.
All right there.
Okay. So what's next for Cesar Grajales based on all of this whole trajectory? The trajectory is going up. But you started at the foundation, coming to the United States, started entertainer, public policy, media, Spanish language media, entrepreneurial activities. What's next?
Well, Kevin, I thank all the opportunities that I have in media, but it's not enough. I think we need to go more into that field, and our people is hungry for more content. And now content have switched not to the traditional media, but more towards digital podcasts and things like that. So we're working now as a team and other group of people to, and we're creating now that new company where Latinos looking for center-right shows, content, and actually the truth. And a new company that you soon are gonna hear about it.
Well, I'm sure you'll do very, very well with it. Cesar, I conclude with two questions almost every time. First is, what would you, looking back, growing up in a small village in Colombia, coming to America, coming to Miami 25 years ago, what would you tell an earlier version of yourself that you might have done differently?
It was very hard the first year or 2 years. I was scared and I was worried. I would say don't be scared, or use that little bit of afraid to propel your dreams instead of just being afraid of chasing them. So I would say that to me, and always trust the Lord.
All right. Well, that's a great way to look at that. So, in conclusion, you put a very positive thing. You're always a very positive person, very optimistic. Obviously, this wasn't a straight trajectory up. No. You had many setbacks, many disappointments, many challenges. I'm sure you learned from those failures along the way. How would you share with this audience today that they should think about going big in their life? You've taken your special gifts and applied them with tremendous energy and passion in a positive way, and you keep looking to do more. What would you share with this audience about how they should think about going big?
I would say this, Kevin, and again, I'm probably coming from my answer. Still aware that there will be more challenges ahead of me. But all the challenges that you face now to accomplish your whatever dream you have of a project, just enjoy it and be happy of what you're doing, because you have to enjoy what you do, regardless of the outcome. Hard work, wake up early, work hard, but enjoy the moment, regardless of the outcome, because life is really short to be sad. And I promise you, people is always watching, always seeing you. And there are people that maybe you are not aware of, but everything that you're doing is inspiring other people. And I think that's important, regardless of if your company becomes the next multi-billion-dollar company. But that process, you have to enjoy it, and that process will inspire more people.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if any of this inspired you today, I hope you'll check out Cesar's organization, the LIBRE Initiative, his shoe company, Indie Genius.
Thank you.
By Indie Genius on Instagram. I'm sure you can Google and find out more. Yeah. Be on the lookout for Cesar. Cesar, it's been an honor to work alongside you. It's been very inspiring. Looking forward to many years, many decades ahead. And really thank you for all you're doing, how you really, truly inspire others.
Thank you, my friend. And it's an honor for me to be here today and be your friend. Thank you.
All right. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Let's go big.
Let's go big.
Thanks for tuning in to the Going Big podcast. I hope today's conversation left you feeling energized and ready to tackle your biggest goals. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps spread the word, and it gets these inspiring stories out to more people. You can also find more content, resources, and updates at our website, goingbigpodcast.com. Remember, the only limits are the ones you don't challenge, the limits that you impose on yourself. Keep pushing, keep growing, and above all, keep going big. See you next time on the Going Big podcast.